Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Toto concept space in sunny Clerkenwell. My name is Mark Dytham. I'm one of the co-founders of PechaKucha, which means chit-chat in Japanese, and the reason that you're here. We're going to kick straight off into this presentation format and presentation evening. Barbara, over to you. Thank you very much, and I'll give you the microphone.
Right. As I think I'm the only academic who's here tonight, I thought I would start by saying something about what has compelled me to devote a significant part of my academic career to talking about toilets. And these are some examples on the wall. I hasten to say that I do study other subjects as well, proper subjects, but toilets are the things that I keep going back to time and time again. So why? What's the appeal? As there's really no neat answer to this, I thought I'd reconstruct my scholarly journey here tonight for you and talk through some of the different ways I've thought about toilets over the years. It all began in 1995 when I was a master's student looking for something to write about. And I happened to read about this controversy in Camden Town, 1900, when there was a proposal to build a female convenience for women, and it was incredibly unpopular. There were lots of local protests that turned violent. George Bernard Shaw weighed in with his opinions and strongly defended the right of women to have a public convenience provided for them. And so the more I researched this controversy, the more amazing I found it. Why would something as banal and ordinary as a public convenience for women upset people so much, cause so much moral outrage? And I slowly began to understand that when people were outraged, it wasn't the toilet itself that was the problem. It was what it represented. In this case, the right of women to move through London streets. And so what I began to understand, the more I looked around at toilets, is that when people argue over toilets and whether or not to provide them, what they're usually arguing over is the right of certain social groups to occupy public space. Toilets are a very powerful way of signaling status, inclusion, of maintaining social order, and also of maintaining certain social values. This is why they're so fiercely fought over, and this is really why I'm interested in them. Toilets reveal many of society's most cherished beliefs about sex, gender, race, religion, decency, the body, you name it. But most people really resist thinking about toilets in this way. Instead, we've really normalized their design. We insist on seeing them as trivial, unimportant, functional, rational, when they're anything but. And this repression is really, I think, reinforced by the design of our whole sanitation system, which deals with our waste invisibly, in underground pipes, out-of-town treatment facilities. It is literally flush and forget. But as our society faces new social and environmental pressures, aging infrastructure, natural disasters, water shortages, can this collective refusal to talk about toilets be sustained? And the reason I began to ask these kinds of questions was that in 2010, I was given the chance to go to Durban, South Africa, to see examples of how the government there was responding to precisely these kinds of issues. And what's so striking in Durban is that they've really fully embraced the fact that waterborne sewers and flush toilets won't be an option in many areas due to water scarcity. And so dry toilets like these are a way to provide sanitation to people who otherwise would have to go without. The problem, however, with these toilets is that people don't like them and people don't want to use them. And I think you can see why. They have nothing really to appeal to the user. There's no dignity there. So I came back and away from this experience, really convinced that whatever the future holds, designers have a very important role to play in terms of shifting attitudes towards toilets and of mediating between engineers and users. And I think that the design community really needs to get hands-on with toilets again. Think about them holistically, think about them creatively, figure out ways to make them seem more appealing, to use less water, and so on. And these designs, I think, can be engineering-led, they can be designer-led, they can be high-minded or playful. Ideally, they would be a combination of all of these things. But above all, I think we really need to start talking about toilets. And this is what I and colleagues have really been trying to do in recent projects. We've been trying to set up projects that get people to ask, why do our toilets work the way that they do? And what would it mean to have another type of toilet?
Okay, so yeah, I'm Jay Gort from Gort Architects, and really interesting slide there. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a recently finished public building of ours, a small public building, and convenient. Can we just get the holding slide? Sorry, I'm going to stitch it up for 20 seconds. Convenient, it's a public toilet that's actually, and a bit of a way of contextualising this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history and the change relation between public toilets and the city. I mean, it's going to build a little bit on, well, not an academic viewpoint, but an actual practicing architect's viewpoint of that intra-human relationship. So, if we look back to antiquity, it was very interesting to find that actually, going to toilet is actually a very public activity. You know, between 2 and 60 people would come together. I mean, this is actually from the Roman Forum, where the toilet place would be named after the god of Hestia or other gods of cleanliness and what have you, and they're very importantly crafted and part of a communal activity. Actually, you can see up here this ingeniously designed public toilet, and it's run through to the medieval times, the fact that people would actually go together as a public activity. If you couldn't fit in there, you'd do it on the streets, because look, quite frankly, anything would go in the Middle Ages on the streets, and those kind of issues of people urinating and excreting on the streets very much led to sort of an issues. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that there was actually found to be the problem of excretion and urine on the streets and all the sort of issues led to cholera and diseases. And so there's a really critical point about how you could start to resolve these kind of issues. And so actually that led to thinking about sewage and also domestic drainage, but also the first invention of public toilets. So this is actually in mid-19th century Paris, where the flaneurs actually commented on the fact that actually bringing them in created a more democratic and civilized space. And actually it started to become a way of, it actually helped, I mean, it was interesting to say about the feminism, but the feminists would talk about how that actually stopped men urinating on the streets, so even though it wasn't there still. So, and that came through into London and bits of UK as well, where it actually became a partnership between towns about how to make these glorious public toilets. So cast iron, ceramics, wrought iron, to create places which were representative and gifts to the city, civics, buildings in their own right. And I think there's something great about that. It's not until actually quite recently that the public toilets have started to be closed down, it's in Smithfield, or they've been turned into espresso shop. You know, it's a very different relationship now, and that's partly because of costs, of nefarious activities that go on there, and vandalism, but it's largely in part by the 2007 white paper on the closure of public toilets, which has been quite significant to our town centres. This is not only London's problem, as Rem Koolhaas has pointed out, in New York, the number of public toilets is used to be 1 to 4,000. It's now more like 1 to 1 million, of public toilets in the city. Starbucks and cafes seem to have to take up the shortfall, or and that's very much the same strategy that's happening in the UK. So this slide isn't actually a call to sort of read back to the communal go to the toilets together, however you say it, but it's actually, this is really the brief that was given to us as our project. Brent Council decided that they couldn't just keep closing all their toilets because actually they have a massive football stadium called Wembley in their borough, and so this kind of thing was happening on a weekly basis. So here's Wembley Stadium. This is actually the site for the competition that we won. It's by a new public space, and down the side here is a residential area and a high street down there. And it's a place where actually, although the stadium and the big stuff going on there, very little investment in the public realm has gone on and taken place. And we wanted to use this opportunity to really create something that had a sense of place to it. And how can architecture do something more than just this? The typical Danford model: clean, green, safe, secure, strong, all those kind of things, fine. But where's the what extra? You know, what else can this give? What the other Victorian examples didn't give in that sense of pride, that sense of place. So that's what we were sort of looking for in our approach. And so our competition model, we put it in our competition model, we thought, okay, let's just go for it. Let's just go for something really bold. It's not a toilet, we didn't know really what it was. It was a sculptural object. It was tall, it was gold, it was perforated. It was just something very object-like, and it was very much decided to be this sort of object that wouldn't have connotations with the past or anything else, but could somehow be part of that place as well. It's actually very contextual in its approach still. And this is the building that's finished now. So it's just recently been opened. It's at the top of Empire Way, positioned at the top as a sort of a way that landscape people would think about where the follies are. So you see it as you're moving up Empire Way. And it's designed such that it's a very simple shape. It's a square with a few triangular points that come out, carved away at different points that somehow respond to the different sides of that street. And the movement as you walk around, it wants to evoke movement around this piece. It's quite enjoyable how the sun actually moves around as well. So in the evening time, it starts to fade in with the trees behind it, part of that landscape. And it's hopefully, you know, trying to perform something more than just being this typical place for convenience alone. To look into it, the choice of materials were very carefully chosen. I mean, this project had to be the same budget as those typical off-the-peg things, by the way, so, or two of those, the same provision. So we worked really carefully thinking about robust materials of concrete base, rising to a filigree water-cut metal upper area. Again, quite tall buildings, so it would have that prominent points on the landscape. And inside, the plan of the toilet was extremely, we had to be very, very, it's like, I guess, like designing a car, well, we're not car designer, but everything had to be really compactly put in so that we could get all the anti-vandalism stuff, the needle boxes, all of the different equipment, but within a very tight footprint. So it was sort of working, it was really interesting working in that way, working with all the maintenance and those demands. So inside, we sort of find that it's quite a nice, you know, it's got a tall ceiling and just a nice place to spend a few moments in. But and we actually carefully considered the size of these things so the passing buses couldn't quite see through. I haven't been tested there yet. I'll have to check it out. But and then in the unisex toilet. Just behind that wall, we then have this oculus looking up to the sky, so a point when it's a pleasant place to spend that time in. What we'll also see around here is this polycarbonate sheeting, which insulates the toilet, allows sunlight through, but also insulates this part of the toilet, and works as part of this environmental strategy. In Brent, we're very interested in how they don't have many public buildings, they don't being given that. How could this be somehow an exemplar of environmental locality? So you have PVs on the roof, which then heats as handrail, which gives enough heat in the wintertime, ventilation, there's water collector on the roof. There's sort of a way of how this thing in itself, its waterless urinals, can actually be part of that. And in robust materials, so they don't need changing, and etc. So how can that be, in some way, exemplar for sort of the toilet in London? And so the final slide just shows these low energy LED slides start to give this nice glow, and I think it started to offer that chance for a special moment in a place where I really think it needed it to make a place out of that.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about a collaboration we did with KBB, Kitchens, Bedrooms and Bathrooms. They gave us a stand, a budget, and 8 weeks to come up with a response to what the bathroom was all about in our eyes, and we came up with this simple idea of what would it be like in 2020. Now, this was a first project for us, so we're going into the deep end. I just want to start with, we're living in a digital world. We're being sucked along by it, and we're fully embracing it. We're loving it. I think and 8 weeks to come up with a response to what the bathroom was all about in our eyes, and we came up with this simple idea of what would it be like in 2020. Now, this was a first project for us, so we're going into the deep end. I just want to start with, we're living in a digital world. We're being sucked along by it, and we're fully embracing it. We're loving it. I think, and this is obviously, taking over a large part of kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to start off with sort of intro like this. And we can see here an introduction of that digital world into the bathroom. Different generations we can see. We're starting off, the young of today are now teaching us how to use a computer properly. And we're finding this is spreading, of course, into absolutely every area of our life. And I think the problem with that is that we're not realising, or we're realising retrospectively, the impact that that's having. We're feeling exhausted. We're not actually looking after ourselves enough, although we're starting to think about that more and more and more. We need to recuperate, we need to reflect, we need to be thinking more than we are, but we're so kind of addicted to the digital world that it just kind of sucks us along. And I think we've really got to, well, the bathroom obviously for some time now, for a long time really, has been trying to address this as a place which is not just about cleaning ourselves and getting rid of human waste, but also is about a place where we can try and kind of escape, try and get away from those things. So really, what we did was we started really reinventing the wheel in our own little way by going back to the elements, looking through fundamentally what the elements were, because I realised that the bathroom, with all this sort of lack of time that we have, with this sense of really needing to recuperate, reflect, suddenly this bathroom could be a place where we lose ourselves in there for a while. A couple of hours, I'm gone, bye. Disconnecting from the digital world. Maybe it's all about that. So we went back to looking at some of the elements and sort of saying, well, this is what we really connect with. These are fundamental values, which are kind of about, having a number two. It goes back down to a really kind of rooted, basic kind of level. So we did a few things on trends, different typologies that existed in bathrooms, what was going on. We can see a lot of references, of course, as you kind of expect. You've got the functional aspect, and then you've got right the way through to looking at, kind of organic rocks, water, etc. So the thing we're most fascinated by is a combination of two things. So one is rituals. Now what I'm absolutely fascinated by, and I really want to unpick, is to deconstruct the taboo in the bathroom. To get back down to, if you remember when you had your first poo as a very, very small child, and you were actually very proud of that. Why can't we be proud now? So experience is the other one. Breaking down, what we actually do in a bathroom into a set of experiences which can be very, very pleasurable. Now obviously this is largely being done at the moment, but I think we're scratching the surface. So in a way, combining experience with a sense of pleasure, how to engage that with obviously technology. I don't believe technology, this is just my opinion, should be taking over. I believe we should be retaining the fundamentals, the grounding nature that a bathroom kind of gives us. And here we have one of our first little concepts, and this is affectionately known as a human car wash. And it was all about breaking down a fast washing idea. Stand on a platform which turns around, fingerprint recognition, understands you, and there's a sense of personality, it understands you. Then sprays you with water and then air jets you like a Dyson blade of air. The toilet, well, trying to think about what the toilet is, the most complex product to design, and I've really had a first bash at this. It's got to go a long, long way. But anyway, we think about this in terms of what that experience is all about. Why couldn't we sort of think along the lines of, a really favourite chair that I absolutely love, thinking about some of the kind of tactile qualities, the intricacies of it. Does it have to be something which is anything other than a very holistic and very intimate moment that we have there, because after all it is. And then following on from that, that perhaps if the bathroom is a place where we escape the digital world, I mean, it could be many things, maybe that's just one way of looking at it, then, technology is invisible. So it's kind of there, working behind the background, in the way that Apple's been incredibly successful at doing this. Everything is out the way, we just get a sense of knowing what we need when we need it. And of course, you know, the new Apple Watch is about, you know, a universal product which is trying to be customizable to everyone's taste. Quite an interesting concept, and you've got a kind of a physical object, but the actual fascia is trying to sort of do that, is really trying to sort of say, look, actually your taste is completely different to yours. Can we actually do that with this product? I'm very intrigued to know how successful that's going to be. Combining all of these elements together, and as I say, the centre of it was, for us was, and we're really starting the beginnings of this, I'd love to go further, is the ritual experience. We kind of had a stab at this idea of something which we tried to give an aesthetic which was incredibly low-tech. This is just the simple idea. Now this, as I say, is not a holistic kind of resolution to a toilet, but you know, actually to touch ceramic, if it's at the right temperature, is actually a very beautiful experience. It's also very hygienic. So we start to kind of strip away maybe some of the details which are about something which connects it to the old typology of a bathroom. And in fact, why can't a bathroom extend the lounge? My very thing, that the typology of the bath, the typology of the toilet, why can't it actually have that kind of extension, which then, you know, extends a sort of sense of relaxation, rejuvenation. I want to spend 3 hours in there, you know, on my own, just getting away from the world, maybe with my partner, maybe with a nice little virtual backdrop, unless we've got a fancy penthouse like this. And, you know, the toilet becomes something in the centre of the room. Sorry. Oh, that's it.
Yes, so Japanese bathing and hygiene culture. I'm going to talk about how it's affected us in the Western world. Historically, the Japanese have always revered water and its cleansing properties, not only in terms of washing the body, but in terms of cleansing the mind as well. And there's a real reverence to the use of water. This is me earlier having a shower, so I've become sort of Japanized. So the concept of using water is always, as I say, taken in terms of how can we use it more effectively, how can we save it, but also how can we enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not working.
There we go. Historically, the Japanese have used communal bathhouses called sensos. They also have spa hotels, which normally incorporate an onsen natural spring. The interesting thing about all these things is that even with a communal bath, you cleanse before you get in the bath. The bath is not there to wash yourself, it's there to relax. Natural springs you see are very natural. So what the Japanese are doing is taking a natural state in terms of relaxation. Here we have some Japanese snow monkeys enjoying exactly the same things in a hot spring. So the whole cleansing process is really replaced by a sense of relaxation. The Japanese can sometimes be viewed as a little bit over-cautious or extreme in terms of their hygiene habits. We've all seen them wearing masks and so on the tube. Now, that cautiousness really gives a seed to a curiosity to how can we make things more hygienic. That curiosity is also based on the fact that they're not afraid of bodily functions, or they're not afraid about talking about hygiene. Here we have a 200-year-old illustration with a farting battle. And below it you see there's the graphics from the washlet where they actually show a jet of water hitting you on the bottom or in your front area, as we call it. So in essence we're talking about a culture which is based around hygiene, wellness, and that as a concept promoting a healthy mind and a healthy body. If we think of Japan, we also think of technology and the impact that it's had on advancement in many things that impact us on our day-to-day lives, whether it's a motorcycle, whether it's a gaming console, whether it's a TV, and more interestingly, toilets. Toilets have revolutionised in Japan over the last 35 years, being reinvented, if you like, in terms of promoting hygiene and usability. So here we have a cross-section in some toilets. So on the left-hand side, we have a traditional toilet that we're all familiar with a wash-down system with a rim. And this is why toilet ducts are so popular, because you can spray bleaches and chemicals and all horrible things under the rim to actually cleanse them. So we take the rim away. So we glaze it, so we can make sure that the ease of hygiene is there. We can change the flushing system. We have this tornado flush design, which means that we can flush at rim level. So we're maximising the use of water. So there's nowhere for muck and other things to hide. The water flushes at rim level, swirls around, and it cleans every aspect of the ceramic. So here we have it. So it comes in at rim level, swirls around, creates this tornado, as we call it, and it grabs the waste, wraps it up, and drags it away, as opposed to trying to push it. So we're using the water and the energy in the water to actually be more effective in terms of trying to push waste away. There's also a natural benefit in the fact that you don't get upward vapour produced in the bathroom. We use some very clever ceramics on all our toilets and other products, which are incredibly flat. So this is a nanoscope, if you like, of a piece of ceramic. So the lower section there is the ceramic that you have on your normal toilets. Very pitted, very ridged, and this is where bacteria and other things live. You make it incredibly flat, you eradicate bacteria, smell, discoloration, and those things. And it reduces the use of chemicals as well. The washlet that was alluded to earlier is an electronic bidet seat. So when you sit there and you use the toilet, you can wash yourself. You can actually try them a little later in there. Do you want to find an orderly queue? The washlet in Japan was introduced by Toto 35 years ago. In terms of impact on people's lives, it had a dramatic effect. If you parallel it to the personal computer, the growth rate was pretty similar. So 70% of people's homes use a washlet type device. So the question is often asked, will it take over Europe in terms of a concept? Yes, ultimately it will, because people will become more familiar with them. Heated seat, deodorizers, warm water washing, of course, warm air drying. These are all different aspects or levels of a washlet, which are fairly, as I say, common to everyone in Japanese life, and it's becoming more common here. The background to the washlet, as you can see, the early designs were a little bit industrial, to say the least. So if we were to produce something like that now, I think people might be a little bit scared of it. But if you think going back 35 years, it was very revolutionary. Front and rear washing, adjustable temperatures, oscillating washing, deodorizing, quite pioneering. The designs have changed over the years. We now have fully automated washlets that will flush automatically, dry you, remote control operated. 35 million washlets have been sold worldwide. That's quite a number when you think about the actual the units that are involved. We've also introduced things called e-water, for example, which is electrolyzed tap water, which is a process where normal tap water is electrolyzed within the unit. We can separate the acidity and alkalinity and use that to naturally bleach the inside of the ceramic and wash the washing wand. So it's completely pioneering. That product is normally found in quality kitchens or in a dentist for washing your mouth out. We created the world's first truly self-cleaning toilet using electrolyzed water and a UV light which reacts with a titanium oxide and zirconium-based coating on the ceramic. Completely revolutionary. So very extreme, absolutely. But if you prove the technology, you can even ride these things to work. In Japan, they've created the Neo bicycle, or motorbike, which is powered by biofuel derived from animal waste. So it's part of the green credentials. This thing did a tour of Japan, did 700 odd miles, powered by biofuel and animal waste. This is my last slide. This is the final image. Thank you very much indeed.
My little talk doesn't start with the toilet. Let me know the last slide. Okay. Doesn't start with the toilet, starts with this. This is a sauna in the middle of Finland where I found a lovely door handle on my holidays. Wasn't thinking about toilets, wasn't really thinking about work at all. This is the sauna of Alvar Aalto, just on the sort of bottom side of Lapland. What I noticed about saunas then, after visiting that one, is they all have wooden handles, which makes complete sense because Finns make sense. They, on the inside of a sauna, when you're hot, it's 80 degrees inside, you don't want to grab a metal handle, you'll burn yourself. When you've jumped in the freezing cold water and you want to get back in the sauna quickly, you don't want a metal handle because you'll freeze to it. So they use these wooden handles. I came back to the UK, normal job as an architect, and this is what I'm kind of faced with, is the regulatory kind of, dock pack toilets, and this is something I was doing only a few days after visiting the sauna in the middle of Finland. This is familiar to, I'm sure, every architect in the room. And I kind of thought there must be a better way. So I started photographing toilets particularly disabled ones, but generally toilets. This one is in the Westminster Hospital. It's a luxury hospital where you go and visit some of the most expensive doctors in the UK, and this is their toilet that all visitors to the hospital use. You can see grab rails with big roses on. This is actually our studio, the best we could do. It does fail building regulations, I'm sure every architect will notice, is because the grab rails are actually not contrasting colour with the background. So we twisted the building regs a little bit in our own studio to kind of knock them back and kind of make it a little bit more acceptable. It doesn't escape historic buildings. This is a Grade 1 listed building. This is St Albans Cathedral, and a door straight off the nave in the middle of the cathedral, and that's what, if you need the toilet in the middle of a service, that's what you're greeted with. Again, these kind of clunky grab rails, the little plastic toilet brush, you know, you've seen it all before, kind of alarm that you have to have. So I thought, well, okay, back to my holiday, it must be something different. I reread a lovely book, in case anyone doesn't know, In Praise of Shadows, where he describes the best toilets in the world, in his opinion, are in Japanese temples. They don't have lights, they have one little hole, which is at that level, so you can see out, and you always hear the noise of the rain on the roof. And there's something in his mind about going back to very simple toilets. I was also given this book. Anyone who's in the toilet industry here has to read this book. I was given it by Michael Wolff. It's called The Specialist, and it describes this guy in the Midwest who makes very simple timber toilets with a big hole in the ground, and describes where to site them, how to make the door swing in so you can put your foot against it in case anyone comes in, those kind of things. And I thought, well, we've got to do something maybe British, back to kind of English craftsmanship, and how can we find a different way of dealing with these disabled toilets and the grab rails and that kind of thing. So I sort of started thinking about oak, and why doesn't oak kind of exist in toilets? And I started sketching different timber versions of lever handles, grab rails, how to get rid of that horrible rose that exists on all disabled toilets, a drop-down rail, which all architects and well, everyone will be familiar with, you have to have in a disabled toilet, and thinking there must be another way, there must be a softer way. We started then in the studio making rapid prototypes of different ergonomic tests of lever handles and different bits and pieces. And then having done plastic ones, we sort of were losing touch with kind of the point of the project, which was back to Alvarato's kind of nice, soft, worn-in twig that sits on his sauna door. So we spent some time down in Devon, working with some carpenters we know, great guys, and we worked on a set of handles which only use one tool, and this is the tool we invented. It's just basically a router, Black & Decker router, stuck through a hole in the table. It's not sophisticated, you could probably make one in about half an hour. And this tool then is used throughout a different system of different things you find in toilets. So we then drew all the different components that you need for a disabled toilet, just looking at how we can make it less kind of medical, less kind of like those examples I showed earlier, and we sort of came up with a range of grab rails, all that perform to the British standards and the kind of EN systems and the different building regs. So you can see here like a hook on the toilet door, the lever handle, good for arthritic people, and we kind of went through all the ergonomic tests of that, grab rails either side of the mirror, and then we refined the prototypes down, again going back to the carpenters in Devon, spending some time with them, trying to really aspire to the quality of their chisels really. When I was looking at their tools I was thinking, that's what we're going to aspire to. And I spent a few days again with them, kind of making prototypes and kind of getting things to a kind of better resolution really. And so here we kind of felt satisfied that we got something, and this is one of the lever handles. You can see in the background big pull handles for doors, the drop-down rails, all the little thumb turns, coat hooks, etc. That we've been making with them. We oil them with a antibacterial oil. Oak is antibacterial, and that's why you don't ever get a wooden spoon made in oak, because it has that antibacterial quality, but we've been oiling it to give it an extra bit of protection. So we've then developed, with that one tool, all these different range of toilet brushes on the right-hand side, grab rails on the left-hand side. and all the kind of functional things, like this is the backrest. And then having kind of worked with the manufacturer and told them the story of In Praise of Shadows and the specialist book, they kind of got the idea and they commissioned some photography which was a little bit more moody and not set against white backgrounds, which kind of made me very happy that it was kind of something that's softer and has that kind of quality. We work with them now on all the different kind of fittings, so toilet brushes, making sure that they kind of reach commercial standards and they're not going to break, and they kind of work. They also work for cleaners who are going to kind of commercially clean toilets. And then the last thing we've been doing in the last week is producing a little brochure, and I'm happy to say that this is the first product I've ever designed as an architect, you know, by training. This is the brochure that we've been working with Studio Fernando Gutierrez, and these handles and the drop-down rails and the coat hooks and everything will be on sale from next week. So it's a little, and it's almost a year to the day since I went to Alvarado's sauna and saw that firsthand.
Earlier in the summer, I had the pleasure of visiting the Venice Biennale, and Rem has a show on there with an exhibition called Elements, and I have to unashamedly say that I've been reading this toilet book on the toilet back at home, so there's quite a bit that's pilfered from that book. Historically, waste in the city was something that was exiled from architecture, and in the Dead Sea Scrolls it specifies you have to defecate 3,000 cubits from Jerusalem and can only walk 2,000 on the day of the Sabbath, so that might have led to a problem on the Sabbath day. But here are some early examples of toilets entering into architecture. The one on the left, kind of a huge space occupied in this house in Yemen, and the one on the right, toilets on the external skin of the building. And in a project we developed called the Desktopolis, we explored how the toilet might actually become part of the building as a whole. So the whole community, a self-contained ecosystem of production and waste. You might have to click it. We chose to use Vitruvius here as a kind of the Vitruvian man as an icon of modernity. And anyway, so this is the self-contained ecosystem. Nothing escapes, apart from some puffs of smoke at the top. So in 1775, Alexander Cummings invents the S-trap and helps to banish the stenches which were familiar to going to the toilet previous to that. And so from this point, toilets can enter into the domestic environment. I guess it's hard to think, you know, what would the Glade plug-in be if he hadn't invented that S-trap? And here at the Great Exhibition of 1851, toilets again had pride of place as a kind of icon of modernity and progress, and how the civilization of a people could be rated by the quality of their toilets. And in this illustration, and again by another Alexander, Alexander Kira undertook a study of the anatomy of going to the toilet and tried to work out, you know, exactly the dimensions and distances that should be adopted to create the ideal toilet seat. So you can see here kind of various measurements. And here we have what he considered to be the ideal sitting position for going to the toilet. So, I mean, if anyone has an example, I don't know, Toto, if you've got one of these somewhere, I'd like to give that a go. But so the toilet is a physically intimate place, obviously, but perhaps it becomes also a psychologically intimate zone. Perhaps it could also become our friend.
Please sit to create profile. Ah! Please log in with name.
So in this example, a boy discovers a talking toilet.
Please sit to create profile.
Okay, but don't try anything funny.
Request for funny activated. Loading joke.
You know jokes?
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Botany.
Botany who?
Botany good toilets lately?
I get it!
So the toilet, all is not well in the world of the toilet. Water is a very valuable commodity, and in 1992, America banned toilets over 3.5 gallons per flush, and people were appalled by this and started trying to smuggle toilets over the border from Canada. And Bill and Melinda Gates have set up a fund to try and research the future of toilets in other parts of the world as well. And one of the core ideas behind this is the idea that maybe we reverse the wet and dry relationships we have at the moment, and use dry as the waste and wet to clean. So the next section of this presentation goes on to think about maybe the spatial aspect of the toilet. So the toilet is a place where we discover the lock, and the lock on the door is something you don't often find in the house, and as Bachelard says, is a kind of psychological threshold and creates a separate womb-like otherworldly space. So in this project in Cambridge, we played with this idea of the toilet space as being kind of outside of reality and bringing the outside into the toilet, filling the toilet with autumn leaves in this case. And this sort of playing with our preconceptions of what the toilet space is also something looked at here by Louis Vuitton in The Phantom of Liberty, where the toilets are brought to the dining table and the experience of eating is the thing which is banished to the kind of room of solitude. That reversal of kind of social norms and assumptions is also explored here in a project by FAT called Bathroom Suite, which was a suite developed for a celebrity couple who had become inseparable, perhaps a kind of Poschenbecks or a Brangelina. They've become so tied to one another they've even fused into the same name. So they have shared basins, but they also have conjoined lavatory seats. And I think it's not by chance that FAT chose to use the toilet to make this point, because the toilet is a kind of icon of modernity, and the very fact that it becomes this kind of white, perfect form is something probably why they use pink. So I'm going to finish with an anecdote about a personal experience with the toilet. I drank too much tequila one day. I recommend you do not do that. And used the aforementioned lock on the toilet door. Passed out, unfortunately. And when I awoke, I saw this vision. And I thought, where am I? Where have I woke? Am I in a Baroque cathedral? Am I looking up at the nave of Munich Cathedral? Or, I don't know, it was Guggenheim or something. But no, it was, I'd woken up underneath the toilet, and I became fascinated by the kind of material language that was there. And I thought, is this kind of a bit like Bernini's Ecstasy of Santa Teresa, the way the folds of the toilet kind of mirror this kind of sculpting of marble material. So it's a fantastic material palette, which I think has a lot of potential, and various variations here upstairs.
Hey,
this
don't mind if I
must be modelled on a Toto toilet.
I knew that would happen, but I did it anyway. I'm not just saying this because I'm your friend, but that is amazing.
Alert. Auxiliary water tank low. I require maintenance from primary user.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, so talking about the toilet, first thing we talk about is this object here, which you're probably all familiar with. It's the very basic toilet. It was invented not by Thomas Crapper, but, as many people think, but by John Harrington in 1596. Everybody goes to the toilet, of course, as we know, including Her Majesty the Queen, although it's quite hard to imagine. But royalty and everybody. The toilet is something that unites all of us. The Queen obviously goes to the toilet, and so did Henry VIII. And in the time of Henry VIII, actually, it was considered a great honour to be Henry VIII's toilet attendant, and to be the toilet attendant, indeed, of any royal, and they were known as the keeper of the stool, or the groom of the stool, and that was indeed a great honour. Henry VIII repeatedly used swans' necks to wipe himself as the world's most luxurious toilet paper. But I don't really want to talk about toilets in themselves tonight. What I want to talk about is the room in which we go to the toilet, which is also called the toilet. This is obviously, many of you will remember from the film Trainspotting. It's something we've all come close to experiencing. It's an exaggeration. It's the epitome of the worst kind of toilet we could possibly come across. Hopefully you've never been in any of those. What we're more familiar with in the UK in terms of public toilets is this kind of building, which is kind of modelled on a weird sort of twee cottage. It's twee, but as I've written there, it's also somehow sinister. It's got a strange connotation, and some of you may know the word cottaging, which originates from this, and what that means. If you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. But it gets better in terms of public toilets. This is in Norway. This is in one of Norway's beautiful tourist trails, and you'll see. We're going to have to move on to this one, unfortunately. But in a similar way, this is in Texas, this is in a national park in Texas, and you'll see the way they've managed to design a toilet that fits in with its landscape, that ages with its landscape. It's made of vertical planks, if you like, of corten steel, so that it ages over the time. Here it is again. And it weathers, and this is designed to be a sculpture as well as a toilet. So essentially it's a piece of art as well as a public convenience. So rather than making this strange little building that just doesn't fit its environment, instead we've got this, and this is an interior of it. We've got this this thing which is, you know, very arguably an artwork in its own right. And to move on, there are lots of wonderful kind of quite interesting architectural public toilets around the world, including this one, which is one of my favourites. This is in Hiroshima in Japan. It's by Future Studios, and it's modelled actually on origami. And I think it's a wonderful shape, and I think the interesting thing about it is it's not trying to hide away. It's not trying to blend into its background. It's not trying to you know, to hide what it is. Some of them are bright colours, some of them are white. As I say, they're modelled on origami, and they're a really interesting shape. They're perforated so that natural light comes into the toilet. And they have a wonderful interior as well, which is ultra modern. And the whole point of this, of course, as everybody knows, is that if you design a beautiful building and it's a toilet, people are going to respect it more. They're going to treat it with more respect, and it's going to remain, hopefully, cleaner. So this is in New Zealand. This is by an architecture practice called Studio Pacific, and this is definitely one of the strangest public toilets I've ever seen. I mean, it looks strangely like some kind of reptile or some kind of prehistoric form, and it's intended to, but the interesting thing about it is the window is up there at the end of this kind of trunk, which means that the light is able to come in, but nobody can come along and smash the windows. It's also armoured in a way that references, as the name does, an ancient underground stream, but it also protects the toilet in itself. This one is in Poland, and this was built when Poland hosted part of the 2012 European Football Championships. And I think, as well as being a wonderful form that makes such a massive difference to a town centre, it also has multiple functions. You know, it lights up. It makes the whole place feel less scary. You can park your bike in it, and I think, you know, it's very little things, small things like this that make a huge difference. If you went to that town centre, you would remember those toilets, and it would bring the whole level of the place up. This, well, unfortunately, this was not a concerted effort, so I didn't know this was going to be here. And Gortscott obviously have already talked about this in a far better way than I have. Except to say that when we did an article on our website, Design Curial, which is the website for Blueprint and FX magazine, I ended up talking to Vanessa Feltz on Vanessa Feltz's radio show, and having to explain all about this toilet and why it was on our list of some of the best toilets ever designed. And Vanessa was not too happy with my explanation, but I hope you've been more happy. So thank you very much.
So toilets, it's a familiar word in many, many languages. Some, it's something to aspire to, a luxury, but a lot of languages, I think we probably take it for granted. I'm an environmental services engineer, so my day-to-day role is to design the systems to and from these facilities. So toilets, although they date back to Neolithic times, but the toilets that we know in our houses date back to about 1775. They're obviously now commonplace across the world, certainly all in developed countries. So I think we all have varying relationships with toilets. I think some people see it as an unnecessary issue that is wasting time for them and they really don't need it in their day-to-day life. Others, it's a nice break from the day-to-day hassle of work. You can sit there, you can chill out for a bit, download information, and just relax. So for those that are unable to draw themselves away from social media, you'll be pleased to know there are even toilets for you. There was a piece of research done that suggested that 14 million UK inhabitants read magazines and books on the toilet, while 9 million talk to people on the phone, which I couldn't quite get my head around. So, as I mentioned earlier, my profession is to do with water in and water out, and my relationship with buildings and architecture. 30% of our water used within buildings is dedicated to WC flushing. It's a valuable resource, so we look at how we can try and save that and limit it. And starting off with toilet design, the toilet design manufacturers have embraced water conservation over the years, starting with low flow fittings, low flush cisterns, even putting plastic hippos in cisterns to try and reduce the flushing volume. So there has been a real drive on the market. But why are we using potable water to flush toilets anyway? It's a waste of water, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resource. So we look at systems whereby we harvest water from showers, wash basins, sinks, locally treat it in the building, and then use it back in the building for WC flushing and urinal flushing. Product technology and development. Showers are leading the way with creating almost black box technology where they take the wastewater from showers, they treat it, filter it, reheat it, and then resupply it to the actual shower fittings. So there's a challenge for toilet manufacturers. Can we do the same thing with toilets? Quite a challenge, I know. But it's not all flushing. There's some sucking and blowing as well. And this toilet is actually a vacuum toilet which creates a vacuum and sucks the waste from the toilet, discharging it out of the building and saving about 80% of water over normal flushing WCs. So quite a saving there. This one's actually being trialled in the field, so to speak, at the moment by a British manufacturer. It uses a pulse of air to actually push the waste out of the pan straight into the drainage network, and they're reckoning that they're saving about 85%. So the gauntlet's been thrown down. But I think it's still recognised that with regards to water treatment, the most cost-effective approach is still to go with the main central infrastructure systems such as this Thames water treatment plant here. Having said that, we're still looking at techniques on local and building scales where we can treat water and reuse it back into the building. So one example of this is Thames Water's old Ford treatment works on the Olympic Park. So this takes all of the sewage from, well, parts of North London, treat it to create non-potable water, and that water is then used for WC flushing and for irrigation across the Olympic Park itself. So it was a trial job for Thames Water, but it went very well. This one here is something we've worked on previously at Arup. It's the Bed Z scheme. It's classed as sort of ultra-sustainable living. It takes all wastewater, discharges it to reed beds or living machines, treats the water aerobically and anaerobically, and then again injects it back into the building environment for flushing. But if you want to go a bit wild, these are composting toilets. You can take yourself completely off the grid, no incoming water, no outgoing waste. It's for the hardcore eco-warrior, I would suggest. There aren't too many of them around. So one example of a building that we've worked on, which embraces all of these water-saving technologies, is this building, the Crystal, which was done for Siemens down at Canary Wharf. It recycles all of the black water, and it's sized to take around about 250,000 flushes a year. It's open to the public, so go and have a look. But that's all very well and good, but there are still around about 2.5 billion people in the world who don't have access to safe and clean toilets. And this spreads waterborne diseases such as cholera, which can be absolutely devastating to communities. So cholera itself is, again, through poor sanitation. It's caused from fecal matter infecting food sources and water sources. Around about 110 to 120,000 people a year die of cholera, so it's significant. Through sanitation, good sanitation and incorporation of toilets, it can certainly help. But incorporation of toilets in the third world and developing world also helps with security. You may have heard in the news recently about 2 teenage Indian girls who were unfortunately murdered. That was actually partly due to the fact that they had to go outside the village limits to the scrubland and do their business there, putting them in a very dangerous and awkward situation. Slightly more light-hearted, I came across this, which is also for security. Believe it or not, this is actually a toilet snorkel, where it's supposed to help people in high-rise buildings if there's a fire, and it's supposed to get around smoke inhalation. So, I'm not sure about that one. But with regards to the future, well, I see it as a marriage between water conservation and ensuring that public health is actually maintained. There are projects out there, like the Bill and Gates funded project, that are even looking at toilets with no waste connections, no water. Uses microwave and plasma technology to deal with gases. That might be the future, but I haven't got a crystal ball to look in yet.
We think a lot about the rooms and the spaces that we place them in, and all the other elements as a designer and architect that you have to think about. I think the pressure to perform is something I have always think about as a designer and as an architect, thinking about how people will use the space, will like the space, and I think bathrooms and toilets are something that I find quite fascinating. So this is just a selection of slides of things and different types of toilets that I use and have thought about. This was my first experience, as it was for most of us, of a toilet, and my mother's words to me were, "Now just concentrate." And I found that quite difficult, probably because concentrate is quite a big word. So she then arranged lots of stimulation around me to take my mind off the doing and play music, read a book, watch television, and have these weird little kind of toilet angel type creatures that would make a wish and I would perform. I didn't like that, so I discovered a different place. And that different place was going behind the settee in the living room. And that became my special place. And my parents, being in the 70s and open-minded, went with it. And got a bit tired of the carpet or floor being ruined, so invested in some linoleum tiles, which were then placed behind the sofa, and hopefully the next slide will reveal the scene that I was quite happy with. This was my first bathroom. So I could look out the window, I could still be part of the family scene, which was quite important to me, not to miss out on anything. So I was still within the room, the living room. I could watch television, and that's something that I always think about, having this space around me to perform. Things that I continue to battle with when traveling, and I don't really think as designers or architects we've ever get the ability to address. We're always put up against, you know, it's about things becoming smaller, and airplanes and Virgin trains, where I spend quite a lot of my time traveling on the Virgin Pedalino. There's a couple of things that wind me up, and it's a lot of plastic, really, and the idea of having a space outside where people can wait while you're performing, I find quite stressful to think that there's people outside. And then there's the whole button scenery, woman telling you don't flush things down the toilet, working out which button is the one that's closed, did I lock it, have I unlocked it, the alarm goes off because you pressed that button by mistake. I don't understand why they just don't put a window in these toilets and you can actually look outside. The other thing that I find quite annoying is short doors on toilet cubicles. I understand it from a ventilation point of view, but being able to see people's feet as they're performing, again, is quite stressful. This, I actually think, is a brilliant piece of design in the sense that inside the Portaloo, having been to many music festivals, you need somewhere to kind of just have a moment and relax, and having the space around the toilet seat, going back looking at some of these great slides of Roman baths, is great. Also, I'm really fond of the lever as opposed to the flush, because again in a Portaloo, you can really sort of be in the driving seat, you holding it, you have that moment to make the decision to pull, and it steadies you up, which is great if you kind of need that. Things that really wind me up as an architect, as my studio will know about, is mastic, access panels and extractor fans. If you're designing a lot of housing like we do, it all looks great, we specify these beautiful products, we put in great marble, and then we're told you need an access panel, mastic everything. But we try hard, these are in some apartments that we've done, to really think about the details. So think about, how we can hide services, how we can incorporate, using tiles, grout, so we avoid using mastic. Inspiration for me comes from great places like Villagnecchi, which is Gio Ponti's house in Milan. Again, one of the early uses of heating, really the bathrooms in that place, even though you could say they're opulent, they're rooms. And that's something with space that I think I always refer back to when talking to clients. Again, screens shielding the bathroom can have height at the top. It doesn't need to be at the bottom. And using materials in a way that give this sense of space. And I think a bathroom is the place where you do want to enjoy that. Geoffrey Bauer, another good example of thinking through bathrooms. This is the Candela Motel, again, very luxurious, but getting that connection with what's going on outside. So just thinking about how you can connect natural light into bathrooms is of importance. This was a conversation of a project we did, very low cost, for refurbishing a 1950s bungalow outside of Manchester for a family. They wanted a room where the whole family could be in doing their things. So somebody could be in the bath, someone could be in the shower, and someone could be brushing their teeth, and somebody could be using the toilet. And I think they were very pleased with this, a bath that can incorporate the whole family, and just being able to use natural light to enlighten that space. And that's it. I need to go to living.
Okay, obviously, my name's Philippa Toll, I'm the editor of Kitchens and Bathrooms News. And for my presentation, I'm talking shock and awe. That is the best of bathroom products and the worst, or what else? I'm a journalist, what else do you expect? Anything that's made the headlines is going to be here. Or in a while. Thank you. So let's start with the world's most expensive WC in the world, a 24 solid carat in Japan. Indeed. It's an exhibit. It's not meant to be used. It's an exhibit. It's not meant to be used. But if you're looking for a cheaper option, Kimye have just bought gold-plated ones from the Bel Air mansion. Or if you want to go blingy, this is for the clients in Loughton. I was thinking, from Las Vegas to Loughton. How about a Swarovski-studded WC? $75,000, 50,000 Swarovski crystals. Borrowed, thank you, richest.com. Certainly one to keep your eye out for. Obviously this has been used, this is a Shah, loo with a view. Apparently, one of the top 50 places to pee in the world. It's on the 68th floor As you can see, it's 800 foot above London, and it gives you a view of the Gherkin and Tower Bridge and HMS Belfast. Or how about this one in Guadalajara? You don't need a vista. Look downwards. This was an elevator shaft with the elevator never installed. Just 15 levels to look down. Personally, I think I'd rather be sat on the toilet than just looking down the shaft. But, you know, certainly the view can be less than expected. This was an installation outside the Tate Modern, I think in 2003 off the top of my head. Basically, a glass box using one-way glass. Absolutely seamless, looks like there's nothing there. But once inside, you can see everybody else. So it's a challenge of preconceptions. Perfect for Clerkenwell Design Week, so you can sit in there and watch the world go by. See as many installations as you like. Oh, that might be me. Unfortunately, the view can be sometimes a little too much. As you notice, some of these are taken from the Daily Mail, Daily Fail. This is a new hotel in Berlin, which borrowed kind of, I'd suggest it's designed from the Shard, only that restaurant is 10 stories up. So it can be seen from the ground. So that gentleman, you might want to check your WC just in case. The Shard restaurant, sometimes outside, they offer lots of promise. Great ovoid sculptures. Sorry for the bit of a shaky photo. I'm thinking it's probably the wine, not my photography here. But as you can see, delivers lots of excitement. Inside, I hate to say it, a little bit bog standard, so hopefully the designer and architect isn't here tonight. Just your standard white WC, you can see the toilet roll. Oh, it's glamorous all the way through and through its sketch. So I think taken from that is, carry on through. If you're going to offer something, carry it up. I like these urinals at Dobby's, themed urinals, floral. This is Shetton Mallet. In Somerset, glamour all the way, isn't it? Here you have roses, hollyhocks, daffodils. Women sadly only get the basins. Obviously the engineering's a little bit different from the WC. But theming can be quite fun. This is the R Bar in Brighton. R stands for revenge, so I would actually like to see them bite. I think that would be quite fun, but that's just me. And they're also in the Hunter S Bar in Islington, a very similar theme. Or, hey, don't just stick to the WCs, we can do basins too. These are pedestals. And this is in Beijing, China. Yeah, unsurprisingly, in a male WC, not a female. Or at least I'd like to hope to think. But we're not just talking about the men. Let's have a go. Ladies coming back. Here we go. These are urinals in Kuala Lumpur in the Zeta Bar. So I particularly like the one with the tape measure. And I think we've got a magnifying glass on the other one. Of course, toilets about technology. And I couldn't stand here without quickly promoting the Toto. But this one is particularly fantastic. I know we've spoken about it, Floyd's spoken. It cleans itself, which is genius. Men won't understand, I'm sure the ladies will. Basically has a zirconium coating and an actylite. Then, obviously, there's the least technological. Here we go. Interesting way of inclusive design. There's a squatting toilet, but if you haven't got the legs and thighs of an alpine skier, then maybe a traffic cone and a wooden seat may suffice. Talking about, and then a couple of disasters here. I agree with you about the short toilets. Do you think they did them off-site? I'm not too sure. I'm not so sure if he said a couple of inches off the top or the bottom, and the one around the toilet, I know it's wrong, but it's genius. Obviously, toilet planning is about ergonomics. You've got to plan to make sure you're close to everything. The toilet bar, okay, that's a bit of a problem. Maybe straddling that WC might be a problem, but you know, you can always go side saddle, I'm assuming. There is a bar in Brighton, actually, where you have to open and squat. And it's not just a WC. Please ensure the basins are up to spec. Check the heights. check the length of the spouts. There's nothing a little bit more disconcerting than having to jam your hands in between the marble and the faucet. Or tap, as we say in the UK. There we go. Had to do it. Basically, you guys all know bathrooms are ingrained in everything we do, from our history which we've had, through the culture which we've had, and it's embedded in our everyday lives, even on comedy. And you guys deliver the experience, so thank you all very much, and carry on at your convenience.
Philippa, thank you very much for drawing the Pechakucha evening tonight to a fantastic close. I think there's some key things to take away with you. Humour is incredibly important in toilet design and architecture. I think we all know that it is probably the most important room in the house. And I also want to thank Toto for taking this brave step for having this Pechakucha night tonight. So I want to thank you all very much for coming.